Tide keep overtime going. Barzal to Horvat. Svechnikov defending Horvat. He'll put a shot from the sharp angle. Comes back to the point. They'll score! Robert Bortuzzo delivers the shot. And it gets through Frederik Andersen. Andersen's not leaving the crease, though, Trip. Patrick Waugh and the Islanders have thought this game is over.
Well, I don't know if Barzal got a piece of it and where he was with relation to the blue paint.
Well, it was a goal, and that's really all you need to know. Welcome to the Canes Corner podcast. We're meeting under better circumstances, but we're not. They're not all wins, but we still do this because there are still things to talk about. And we are brought to you, as you can tell by your screen if you're joining us on YouTube, the Aluminum Company of North Carolina. If it's for the exterior of your home, you can find it at the Aluminum Company of North Carolina in the shadows of twilight here on studio screened-in porch. We have to deal with the Hurricanes 3-2 double overtime loss to the Islanders, which forces a Game 5 back in Raleigh on Tuesday night. But, hey, we get more hockey, and we get a chance to do another Canes Corner podcast live here on YouTube, as we do after every Hurricanes game. So rate, subscribe, like, whatever you have to do, and you'll see us after every Hurricanes game. So let's get to a couple of things, and none of us like to lose. But let me just broad brush not only the game, but the series. Because I think we need to be honest, right? We want an honest assessment of what we have seen through 4 games. The team that deserved to win today won. Just like the team that deserved to win Game 2 absolutely won. It was looked at, framed as the Islanders having blown a 3-0 lead. That was not the case. Hurricanes were better, certainly utterly dominant over the last 30 minutes. The only time the Islanders had the better of play was for about a 10-minute stretch overlapping the first and the second period in Game 2. They scored 3 goals during that time, but that's that. The Hurricanes, I would say the rest of the series has been kind of even. And today, while I think the Islanders were better, Carolina's best stretch of hockey, interestingly enough, featured no Hurricanes goals. So they got the first goal. The Islanders got the next 2. But I thought Carolina was really good the last 8 or 9 minutes of the second period. And they got the power play goal in the third. That was nice. And they certainly did play better in the third. But I don't know that they were really better than the Islanders. Excuse me. For any stretch other than the second period. Little product placement here. 99.9 The Fan. All right. So if you think about it, we've played 13 periods of hockey in this series. 13. I think the Hurricanes have been significantly better than the Islanders, or let's just say the better team, for what amounts to about 3 of 13 periods. I don't think the Islanders have been significantly better than the Hurricanes for much more than that. But if I told you that the Hurricanes before today were better in 9 periods for maybe 2 total periods, like the better team, you wouldn't have thought the Hurricanes were up 3-0, but they were. The Game 2 was decisive Carolina Hurricanes hockey win, and the other 2 games were toss-ups. I said it in the pregame show. I have a tickle in my throat. I said it in the pregame show. The Canes could have easily been down 2-1 in the series going to today, just based on the way they have played. Carolina defensively has been outstanding. Frederik Andersen, for the most part, has been spectacular. I think he was shaky early in Game 1, much better late. To me, he was the first star, won the game because of him. I thought, obviously, he didn't have to do much in game 2. Carolina had the puck the whole night. And in game 3, I thought was his best game. I thought Freddie was excellent today. Certainly, this loss has nothing to do with Frederik Andersen. The goal that won it, nothing to do with Freddie Andersen. We'll go through primarily the game-winning goal for the Islanders and talk about what went wrong on it. But for the most part, this has been a relatively even series. So the Hurricanes going home with a 3-1 lead can close it out in game 5, which incidentally, they had that opportunity a year ago and didn't do it. And we had to go back to Long Island for game 6, which they won in overtime. So, I mean, all in all, what I've watched for 4 games, I think Carolina's not fortunate, but I think Carolina take 3-1 up based on the way things have gone. They obviously wanted to win today, didn't. And by the way, I've seen it. So you really think they didn't come prepared to play today? You're going to be that person or those people? Are you serious? Come on. The Islanders are a difficult team to play against because they are physical. They do like to muck it up, and it's not always the prettiest game. The Islanders have one line that wants to really freewheel it, the top line. They're Barzal, Horvat, and they're playing with Casey Cizikas for a little, mix-it-up element, and it's worked for them. But for the most part, it's kind of a grinding team. And so sometimes it can be difficult to play against. But the Islanders are not bad. I mean, honestly, the way they played, I mean, the Islanders were one of the best teams in the league, the last 3 weeks of the season. They did, 8-0-1 down the stretch? I know the numbers really were like 10-2-1 in their last 13 games to qualify. And over the course of the year, they really struggled. They struggled defensively, but they're playing much better defensively so far in this series. So some of that is them, and some of it is Carolina's 5-on-5 game is not really clicking on all cylinders at this point. Whatever. Carolina is certainly, again, we go back to game 2, everything worked. Just took a while to get the goals. I mean, my concern level is, I'll tell you after game 5, to be honest. I'm not sitting here being concerned. I thought that this would be a long series. I thought we would be talking about a 6 or 7 game series even before the series began. I thought the way the Islanders have been playing and the way the Islanders can play and the goaltending that they can get. And I remember the season series and their best players were pretty good against Carolina. And that folds us into the second part of the equation. And we'll get to all of that. Let me just run through some topics we're going to hit for sure. We're going to hit the fact that the Islanders' top line was really good today. And going into the series, going into today's game, Matt Barzal and Bo Horvat had combined for 2 points in 3 games. Barzal had 8 points in 4 games against Carolina this year. Horvat had 6. So those 2 guys had been outstanding against Carolina in the season series. Through 3 games, they had 2 points. They came on the same goal. It was the Horvat goal, end of the first period of game 2, that made it 2-0. So Carolina had done a very good job of keeping those 2 guys in check. Didn't happen today. And it didn't happen. The matchup that Patrick Waugh was going after, and Rod adjusted a little bit, not sure it got better, but the matchup he was going after was Kotkaniemi, Necas, Teravainen. That's who he wanted Horvat, Barzal, and Cizikas against. And for the most part, that's who we got. Now, occasionally, Rod, once those guys were on the ice, Rod would engineer a change and get either the Aho line out against it or the Staal line out against it. But for the most part, it was Kotkaniemi, Necas, and Teravainen, which became Martinook, that started. And it was not pretty because it wasn't the Islanders' best line, but it was their most dangerous line late in the game. Those guys really kicked into gear in the late second into the third period. The best line for the Islanders, incidentally, was the line that went up against Staal, Martinook, and Jarvis, and that was the line of Hudson, Fasching, Anders-Lee, and Brock Nelson. I'm sorry, the Pageau, Engvall, Anders-Lee line. That line was excellent today. Most of that happened in the first 40 minutes, maybe a little bit into the third period, because, again, Carolina was really good the last half of the second. But that line was really dangerous, and it gave the Staal line some trouble today. The other thing that gave Carolina some trouble today is a team that is normally so good in the faceoff circle was just so bad. At one point, the numbers were 6 and 31. 6 faceoff wins, 31 faceoff losses. That's mind-blowing. That has to be driving the head coach absolutely batty, because Carolina is so good on set pieces, face-off plays, and normally does a good job winning draws, which helps you, like if you get a power play, or helps you if you're trying to kill off a penalty, and we'll talk about that. Carolina is usually so good at winning face-offs that they don't have to deal with it as much, but today they were not. The numbers were gross. 23 and 48. 23 wins and 48 losses. Twice as many losses as wins. They were at 32% in the faceoff circle today. 32%. The Canes are a plus 50% team for the year. They were 32% on the game in the faceoff circle. And it led to the Islanders' power play goal that gave them the lead early in the third. I really thought at 1-1, Carolina was going to kind of exert their dominance in the third period, but they had to kill off a penalty first. 8 seconds left on the penalty. Pageau's in the faceoff circle. And by the way, Pageau was like 17 and 4 today. Pageau against Jack Drury. And strangely enough, they ruled it a Hurricanes face-off win, but I don't know how you do. The Islanders got the puck right off the face-off. Maybe it didn't go back. Maybe it wasn't Pageau, because Pageau was kicked out of the circle. And at the beginning, when you heard the highlight of it, you heard the fact that Pageau was kicked out of the face-off circle. Right? And Pierre Engvall had to take it. So Pageau moves over to the left. So Engvall won it, but he didn't win it back. He just kind of won it to the side, but it came right back out to Dobson, and a Hurricane did not hit it, I don't believe. Came right back out to Dobson. Dobson's shot got through. Freddie Andersen easily batted it aside. The only play that Andersen maybe wants back is steer that to the corner, and he didn't. He directed it right to Pageau, who, remember, was kicked out of the faceoff circle, but he kicked it right to Pageau. He just punched it into what amounted to an empty net, and that's the goal. But you lose the faceoff, and that's what Carolina did probably more of today than maybe at any point this season, was lose faceoffs, and it really never got better. The third period, I think, was Carolina's best, and they were like, trying to think of they were 8 for 23. They were 8 and 15 in the third period. That was the best that they were, or maybe that was overtime. It was just atrocious how bad Carolina was in the faceoff circle, and if you're going to lose that, you don't start with the puck. It's hard to get possession. All of that. It impacts everything down the line. It doesn't guarantee you anything. And for all of the Islanders' face-off dominance, we needed a second overtime to decide this. So it's not the reason you lose, but it led to the second goal that made it 2-1. So, yeah, Carolina was just brutalized in the faceoff circle. All right, I want to get to the goal that ended it. And look, I think Carolina played a good game. They weren't poor today. But there were some moments that they lost. They lost individual battles, and that's going to happen. But Brady Skjei lost 2 of them on the same play. And first, I thought Skjei kind of mishandled the puck behind the net. Carolina had possession and just lost it. I thought he mishandled it, and then he had it taken away. I'm not sure it wasn't taken away by Bo Horvat, but it's taken away. And then maybe it was by Barzal. And ultimately, the Islanders regained possession in the corner. Svechnikov goes to defend. I thought Andre played well again today. And the puck ends up, it's a quick shot on net. Freddie kicks it out. It goes out to Robert Bortuzzo, of all people, just inside the blue line between the rings. And his shot straight on is deflected by Matt Barzal, who won the battle in front with Brady Skjei. And his stick deflected. It looks like the shot's going to go wide, and Barzal deflects it just inside the left post. And that makes it 3-2, and that ends the game. So Skjei misplayed the puck, had it taken from him, and then lost the battle in front. So it is what it is. But that was it. And I don't think Brady played a poor game. Again, I don't think anybody played a poor game today. I think the Islanders were just better. And it's okay. It's all right. There are things we would like to see this team improve on during the course of this series. And hopefully there's only one more game left in this series. Part of that is I'd like to see more offense out of the top line. I will defend the way they played all day long in game 2, because I keep hearing that, the Aho line or Aho didn't play well in game 2. The hell he didn't. He played great in game 2. They're two ends of the rink. And on home ice, Rod's sending the Aho, Svechnikov, Guentzel line out against Horvat, Barzal, and Cizikas. And there's a reason other than the goal that they scored at the end of the second period, end of first period of game 2, which was not against the Aho line. That was against Svechnikov, Kuznetsov, and Necas. That was that trio was the forward group on the ice on that goal. And I'm not throwing shade at them. I'm just saying that was the forward group. It was either after a power play or maybe after a penalty kill that those guys were on the ice, because that's kind of a makeshift line since those guys don't play on the same line anymore. They're all from 3 different lines. But look at what Barzal and Horvat had done through the first 2 games. Bupkis. And the Aho line was just really good defensively. What they weren't was super dangerous offensively. And I know that's why Aho makes 9.75. That's why Svechnikov makes 7.75. And that's why Guentzel's going to, why they're going to back the Brinks truck up for him. Maybe the Hurricanes, but certainly somebody when we get to July 1. So they weren't super offensively, but they were excellent defensively. And by the way, look at the points. The points were pretty good. Now, today wasn't great from them, but again, I don't think it was bad. The only bad was that Aho got absolutely trounced in the faceoff circle. He won 3 of 18. That's the only bad from Aho today. Jordan Staal, 11 out of 25. Aho, 3 out of 18. Kuznetsov, 1 out of 8. That's no bueno when that trio is 15 out of 51. Woof. Absolute woofness. All right. Already talked about the fact that the Staal line wasn't great, that the Pageau line had them early, but they certainly had their chances, and I thought they they were a big part of Carolina's turnaround in the second period. Again, I thought their best chances, most dangerous time of the game on a consistent basis. They had chances, obviously, to score. Look, Seth Jarvis had an opportunity in the overtime to end it. We've been here before. Certainly wasn't the off the crossbar chance he had on the power play against Florida in game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals a year ago. But Seth had, I don't know if it was Bortuzzo again, but he had a defenseman down, and he basically, whether he tried to fit it in between the blocker arm and the body of Varlamov or not, that's where the puck went. And it looked to me like he had some opportunity over the shoulder, but, it's moving so fast down there. I totally get it. But so Carolina just didn't take enough of their chances. Yes, Kochetkov had a wide open net and shot it wide. They had chances to score. It just didn't go. Kochetkov hit although it might have been the butt end of the stick that Rod was talking about in the post game. Either way, Carolina had wasn't like they were, completely meager today, but I didn't think they had tons of sustained pressure, and the Islanders did. Sometimes it just doesn't work out. There's this notion also that the Hurricanes were not physical enough today. I think if you go back, and I'll go back and look at it, I think the hit totals for this game were fairly similar to game 1. Again, I didn't think Carolina was awesome in game 1. It was one that the Islanders could have easily won, but they didn't. And I think this one is pretty similar. I don't think Carolina lost the game because they were not physical. I think Carolina played their game. They didn't go out of their way. I don't think the Islanders went out of their way. But I do think that the Hurricanes need to get better at 5-on-5 because it's hard to just rely on the power play. Hurricanes were 2 for 4 with the man advantage today. They are now 4 out of 14 in the series, and that's pretty good. That's 28%, I believe, 28.6%, 4 for 14. So that's good. They scored on the last one to get even. Great pass by Teuvo Teravainen. But they gave up a power play goal. So they have now given up 2 power play goals to the Islanders so far in this series. But again, the series is 3-1. So I don't think there's any reason to get too crazy over what we have seen. About goaltending. First of all, Frederik Andersen has played really well. 4 games, 0 complaints about Freddie. And I thought he was as good today as he was in game 3, 40 hours prior. I did think that Rod would go to Kochetkov in either game 3 or game 4. I thought with a 2-0 lead and the fact that for the most part in game 2, I thought Freddie was just okay. He did make some good saves, but I thought he was just okay. And of course, Carolina just had the puck the entire time. So I thought that the 3 goals he allowed, I thought much like Ilya Sorokin in game 3 for the Islanders, where there were no bad goals, but there were savable goals. And I thought for Andersen, there were no bad goals in game 2, but there were savable goals. I thought the Horvat shot was savable. I thought the Anders Lee power play goal was stoppable for Andersen. I know it was right out on top of the crease, but Andersen bit on the first fake. And by the way, Anders Lee tried that same maneuver, and Andersen didn't go for it. Go back and watch. Go back and watch the first goal that Anders Lee scored, and then go watch the Andersen save on Anders Lee, where he gets the pad out, and Lee shoots it wide because Freddie forced him. Freddie did not bite on the first fake. He stayed true, and then he was able to get the pad out when Lee looked like he was going to shovel it into the right side of the goal. So, to me, that was Sorokin in game 3, and that was Andersen in game 2. But I thought that Rod would use the quicker turnaround Thursday night to Saturday afternoon to either start Kochetkov in game 3 or game 4. And as it turned out, Freddie either lobbied hard or Rod went, you know what? I want to send my guy out there again. He's played great, played better in game 3 than he did in the other 2. I'll send him out there again, try to end this series now, and then move on. Well, didn't work. Andersen played wonderfully. This is not on him, but this is 4 games in a row. Now, we do get the extra day, so I will expect Freddie Andersen to play in game 5. Absolutely expect him to play in game 5. We get the extra day off. There's nothing on Sunday. I guarantee you the Hurricanes will not practice on Sunday. They will practice on Monday. Don't think they'll skate Tuesday. And I believe you'll see the Hurricanes just go right to the rink Tuesday night and take a swing at ending this series in 5 games. But no cause for alarm. If you told me before the series that the Hurricanes were going to be 3-1 up heading to a game 5, I would have gladly signed for that. Gladly. Because again, 13 periods in, I think we have seen the best of the Hurricanes for about 3. Again, I don't think the Islanders have been super great, but I think the Islanders have played well. And if you're them, you probably feel like, man, this shouldn't be any worse than 2-2. But it's 3-1 Canes. If you need them, you got 2 of the remaining 3 games on home ice. And hopefully Carolina will only need 1. We're brought to you by the Aluminum Company of North Carolina. If it's for the exterior of your home, you can find it at the Aluminum Company of North Carolina on Hamlin Road in Durham. No place like it. Sammy and his crew do a great job. Appreciate your time. Again, sorry for the shadows. Tough time. Dusk here in almost in Canada. But you heard me, and that's really all that matters. Plus, I ain't that good looking anyway. So we'll see everybody after the Hurricanes and the Islanders from PNC Arena, Game 5 Tuesday night. Canes Corner Podcast, rate, review, subscribe, like, caress whatever buttons need to be done like you should. Know what I'm talking about. And we'll see you after every Hurricanes game. I thank you very much for hanging out. Sorry it didn't end well, but hey, hockey's fun, and we get more of it. See you Tuesday on the Canes Corner Podcast. Good night.